Good morning or afternoon or evening, everybody. I hope that everyone is doing well this week. I wanted to take about 10 minutes or so and break down the Emma Watson speech that you guys should have listened to on Wednesday and submitted the assessment for this speech as well. This will be your first grade in the gradebook in Power School for English. So I want to make sure that everyone has a firm understanding of ethos, pathos, and logos. And if your grade for this assessment is not where you would like it to be after I finish grading them, then you are more than welcome to make corrections for a higher grade. So first I want to point out the differences between ethos, pathos, and logos. As you can see on my screen, I'm going to be separating by ethos will be in yellow, pathos will be in blue, and logos will be in this pink color. So just kind of breaking down real quick the definitions of ethos, pathos, and logos, just to do a quick refresher. Ethos is an appeal to ethics. So when you are using a person's character, reputation, credibility, or fame to persuade. So when you are listening to a speech, ethos is going to come from the notion of what makes this person credible to be talking to me today, right? You are more likely to be persuaded to change your point of view if you respect or understand the person who's speaking, what makes them credible, where they come from, what kind of reputation do they have. It's the same way when we are sick, we go to the doctor tells us how to fix ourselves, and we listen to the doctor, right? Because doctors are credible in the field that they are in to give us advice on what to do. Pathos is an appeal to emotions. Pathos hopes to create an emotional response to persuade. This one is tricky because pathos is not the same for everybody. What might elicit an emotional response from one person might not elicit an emotional response from the next person. So keep that in mind that pathos is definitely the most difficult because it is not so black and white. We have to do a lot of inferencing. We have to do a lot of understanding that this might affect a broad range of people and not just me personally, but what would most people feel an emotional connection to. And logos is the easiest of the three. It is appeal to logic. It uses facts, statistics, data to persuade. So this one is pretty cut and dry. They are, it's easy to distinguish facts, right? You have to have some sort of proof or some sort of logic to back up a claim. So logos is definitely the easiest to do because you often see numbers or facts more clearly than you do with inferencing emotions or credibility. So going back to the speech, I'm just going to be kind of going down and pointing out some of the ethos, pathos, and logos. Starting out, right, she says, today we are launching a campaign called He for She. I am reaching out to you because we need your help. So anytime a person asks the audience or the reader, the listener, the viewer directly for help, that is a form of pathos. That is calling upon your call to action, is what it's called. So when you are when somebody asks you for help, then that is putting you into this moment of, am I going to help or not? So that's that call to action, and that is an emotion, an emotional response. We want to end gender inequality, and to do this, we need everyone involved. This is the first campaign of its kind at the UN that is logos because it is stating a fact. So when she's saying this is the first campaign, that is a fact. We want to try and galvanize as many men and boys as possible to be advocates for change, galvanize, to bring together, to mold, or to weld together. So I underlined this because this is the answer to her purpose, right? When she says, what does she say is the answer for ending this issue? So the issue is gender inequality, the genders not being equal across the world, right? So when she's saying that we need to fix this, right, she's not saying women need to get more involved, right? Because women are not going to step forward and say, yes, I would like less rights, right? I would like to be treated worse in society, right? But it's men taking up this mantle to be advocates for change, right? Because men and boys, she says, are not free from gender stereotypes either, and gender inequality is your issue too. But we'll get to that later in the speech. I was appointed as Goodwill Ambassador for UN Women 6 months ago. That is ethos. So that is probably the best example of ethos that she has. She is a Goodwill Ambassador, which means she has this title associated. So she'll call to herself later in the speech, she'll say, what makes me credible? Who is this Harry Potter girl, right? What makes me credible to be able to speak to you today? And this is one of the reasons why. For the record, feminism by definition is the belief that men and women should have equal rights and opportunities. It is the theory of the political, economic, and social equality of the sexes. This is logos. This is a definition. She even puts it in quotation marks because she cited it from somewhere. So again, going back into what makes her credible, right? Who is she? Why is she speaking about this? She started questioning gender-based assumptions a long time ago. When she was 8, she was confused to being called bossy because she wanted to direct the plays that they would put on for their parents. So here she's talking about this notion of being bossy, which is a definitely a gender stereotype against women. If women are dominant or assertive or in control, they come across as bossy. Right? How many times have we called our mothers bossy because they tell us what to do? But she's applying this to her character of just wanting to be a director, wanting to direct plays. She's being called bossy, but the boys were not. When at 14, I started to be sexualized by certain elements of the media. She's talking about when she rose to fame in the Harry Potter series when she was 14. People started calling things out about her body, starting making sexual jokes about her. And again, that's very young to be kind of sexualized by the media and it being put on blast throughout the whole world. When at 15, my girlfriends started dropping out of their beloved sports teams because they didn't want to appear muscly. So again, going back to this gender stereotype that if girls play sports, they are not feminine, right? So it kind of takes away that feminine nature from a girl if they are competitive, if they are muscly, if they are fit, right? And when at 18, my male friends were unable to express their feelings. So then she does something very interesting by diverting it to men as well, right? Because the biggest gender stereotype that men and boys face is this notion of we cannot express our feelings, right? We have to be strong. We can never show any weakness. Apparently, I am among the ranks of women whose expressions are seen as too strong, too aggressive, isolating, and anti-men, unattractive even. So this is pathos because of all the powerful emotional words that she uses to create a feeling, right? Too strong, too aggressive, and aggressive is one of those male gender stereotypes as well, isolating and anti-men. And I really like that she says anti-men and that she'll go on to talk about why man-hating or man-shaming has got to stop, right? And because a lot of times people think, and even reading some of your responses, you said that feminism is equality for women. It is a women's fight, right? But that is not the case. So going back to how feminism is defined, it is the equality of men and women when it comes to equal rights and opportunities. So there's a lot of people and there's a lot of women who are man haters, right? If they are these strong, hardcore feminists, and that's what she's hoping to change as well. Going down here, this is supposed to be pathos. Let me change that real quick. I'm sorry, logos. Oh, it's early. Still drinking my coffee. No country in the world can yet say that they've achieved gender equality. That is a fact. And there's a plethora of research that shows that even in one of the top world superpowers, such as the United States, gender equality still has not been fully achieved. This whole next paragraph is both ethos and pathos because she's talking about her personal experience with her parents, her school, her mentors, but then she's also using words like privilege and love. Right? My parents didn't love me less because I was born a daughter. My school did not limit me because I was a girl. My mentors didn't assume that I would go less far because I might give birth to a child one day. Right? So those are some really powerful and emotional words. Going on to the next page, we have some logos, right? In 1997, Hillary Clinton made a famous speech in Beijing about women's rights. Sadly, many of the things that she wanted to change are still true today. But what stood out to me the most was that less than 30% of the audience were male. How can we affect change in the world when only half of it is invited or feel welcome to participate in the conversation? So here we have some logos, definitely stating facts and statistics. Going on down here, in fact, in the UK, suicide is the biggest killer of men between 20 to 49, eclipsing road accidents, cancer, and coronary heart disease. So that is a huge and very heavy statistic, right? That 20, which is so young, and 49, which is still relatively young, that suicide is the biggest killer, eclipsing cancer and car accidents. It's crazy. She talks about her personal experience, seeing her father's role as a parent being valued less by society. And so, again, she's talking about her personal experience and what she has personally seen. So that makes it ethos. And then I go ahead to underline this notion of men being imprisoned by gender stereotypes. And those are some powerful words, right? But she says, when men are free, things will change for women as a natural consequence. If we stop defining each other by what we are not and start defining ourselves by who we are, we can be freer. And this is what he for she is about. It's about freedom. I want men to take up this mantle so that their daughters, sisters, and mothers can be free from prejudice, but also so that their sons have permission to be vulnerable and human too, reclaim those parts of themselves they abandoned, and in doing so, be a more true and complete version of themselves. So this whole thing is pathos because of the emotional words that it is creating. Freedom, prejudice, human, right? These are very powerful words, and especially when it's connecting to the people that we love most, right? Our sisters, mothers, daughters, our family, our fathers, our sons, right? So everybody's family members. You might be thinking, who is this Harry Potter girl and what is she doing speaking at the UN? So this is ethos, she's addressing her fame. Statesman Edmund Burke said, all that is needed for the forces of evil to triumph is for good men and women to do nothing. Logos, when you quote somebody. In my nervousness for this speech and in my moments of doubt, I've told myself firmly, if not me, who? If not now, when? So this is pathos because she's talking about her own emotions, her nervousness for this speech. Because the reality is that if we do nothing, it will take 75 years, or for me to be nearly 100, before women can expect to be paid the same as men for the same work. 15.5 million girls will be married in the next 16 years as children. And at current rates, it won't be until 2086 before all rural African girls can have a secondary education. Logos, facts, statistics. And then she ends it on a pathos note, which all great speeches end on pathos. She says, I'm inviting you to step forward, to be seen, to ask yourself, if not me, who? If not now, when? So I hope that this was helpful, kind of breaking down ethos, pathos, and logos in this speech. Again, if your grade is unsatisfactory, feel free to make corrections and changes and resubmit to me in Schoology.